Good morning to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is an important editorial. One, why? Because it is related to environment, and second, it is related to Indian economy, especially exports. And before we go to the editorial analysis, today's enrichment, you're going to work on spot the errors, para jumble, you're going to learn 5 idioms and 5 phrasal verbs. Besides all these, you're going to get the word profile. Let us go to the editorial vocabulary. We'll start the session with editorial vocabulary. Am I audible? So, here a lot of words today, and some of these words are not easy. They go with effective English. The very first word, crosshairs. Crosshairs is an important word, and usually, based on the editorial, they have used green crosshairs. First, you have to know the meaning of the word crosshairs. Part of speech is noun. Two thin wires crossing each other in a gun. If you take a telescopic gun, when they want to aim, then usually you see two wires cross each other. And those two wires crossing each other, we use the term crosshairs. Warranted. Warrant, noun, warrant, verb. So, warranted to make a particular activity necessary, to demand a particular activity. Levy can be a noun, levy can be a, an adjective, it can be a verb. An amount of money, such as a tax, that you have to pay to a government or organization. As a verb, levy, levied, levied. And also, levy can be a noun. And as a verb, obviously, the past participle can be an adjective, any verb. Undermine is an important word, part of speech verb, to make someone less confident, less powerful, or less likely to succeed, or to make something weaker, often gradually. Something is made weaker not all of a sudden, slowly, gradually, in a subtle manner. Then we use the term undermine, an important word. Spur is also an important word, part of speech verb, to encourage an activity or development or make it happen faster. You make something, an activity happen faster, then we say there's a spur. And gauge, part of speech verb, to calculate an amount, especially by using a measuring device. That is one meaning, literal meaning. But actually, based on the context, it means something like assess. Assess a situation, assess a particular thing. Assertive is an important word. Part of speech adjective. Assert is a verb form. Today's word profile based on this particular word. Assert, verb, assertive adjective. Assertiveness, noun form. Someone who is assertive behaves confidently and is not frightened to say what they want or believe. At the workplace, tomorrow you get the job at the workplace, you have to be assertive. That will help in the long run. Critical has many meanings. Based on the context, it could be a noun, it could be an adjective of the greatest importance to the way things might happen. Critical situation, important. Something is critical, very important. Alacrity, an important word, it goes with effective English. Part of speech, noun. Speed and eagerness. Someone does something with a lot of eagerness and very fast, then we use the word alacrity. Sophisticated has got many meanings. One meaning, civilized, polished, urbane. But here, sophisticated, another meaning, part of speech, adjective. Intelligent or made in a complicated way and therefore able to do complicated tasks. Subtle, slightly different meaning. Douse usually it goes with water, kerosene, petrol. To make something or someone wet by throwing a lot of liquid over it, him or her. Some people, when they try to commit suicide, they douse the petrol on them and they light themselves. And there we use the word douse. Legacy, a familiar word, part of speech noun, something that is a part of your history or that remains from an earlier time. Legacy has been legacy of Indian culture. Drenched also you can say very good. Drenched, doused, soaked, another related word. Compatible, an important word. Part of speech adjective. The fact of being able to exist, live, or work successfully with something or someone else. Compatible ideas means they gel with each other. Compatibility means a harmonious relationship, an important word. And there's one combination I use, intellectual compatibility. That is very important. Flag can be a noun, can be a verb. As a noun, you all know the word flag, but as a verb, it's an important word. To warn or tell people about something that is it is important or is a problem. Something has been flagged. That means it has been marked. Why? Because either it is important or it is a problem. Moot, part of speech verb, and it could be an adjective as well. To suggest something for discussion, initiate, suggest. Retaliatory, the noun form retaliation, part of speech adjective. A retaliatory action is one that is harmful to someone who has done something to harm you. Someone tries to harm you and you try to harm the same person, then it is known as retaliation. Play to the hilt. Today we have got one idiom. What is that idiom? Play to the hilt as much as possible, to the utmost degree. Actually, hilt means if you take a sword, the handle of the sword is called hilt. But here it is an idiomatic expression, as much as possible or to the utmost degree. Helm is also an important word and it takes a preposition. There's a standard phrase, at the helm means what? In charge of a company or organization, at the top. Galvanize, another important word, part of speech verb, to cause someone to suddenly take action, especially by shocking or exciting them in some way. In a way, you can say provoke or incite. These are the words you have to think of, recollect. So, all these, many of these words are very important. They go with effective English. You have to spend some time and remember. Now, let us go to today's editorial. Green crosshairs. Crosshairs, lines, when they cross each other, we use that expression. Green. Why the word green? In this context, it goes with the environment. Based on that, it starts with green crosshairs on the impact of the European Union's carbon border adjustment mechanism. So it is all about CBAM. What do the letters stand for? Carbon border adjustment mechanism from the European Union. And based on that CBAM, the editorial opines a multi pronged counter is warranted to tackle the European Union's carbon tax plans. The CBAM is related to European Union's carbon tax plans, and it is going to make a negative impact on exports and on Indian economy. Based on the stand taken by the editorial, how to tackle this problem, a multi-pronged, an important expression, multi-dimensional. Multi-pronged means multi-dimensional. A multi-pronged counter is warranted. Counter means against something. Is warranted. Whatever you see in green related to grammar, whatever you see in red related to vocabulary. I've told many a time. Something is warranted. It warrants something, active voice, present tense, and is warranted, passive voice, present tense. Is warranted to tackle the European Union's carbon tax plans, to tackle, to deal with. This is the main idea of the editorial. And the editorial starts with the tax, the CBAM. It provides information. Starting this October, the European Union proposes to introduce a framework for levying a carbon tax on imports of products that rely on non green or suboptimally sustainable processes and where carbon emissions are deemed to have not been adequately priced. A very lengthy sentence, the very first sentence looks like a paragraph. So, what does it mean? In a nutshell, it is about the carbon tax going to be introduced from the European Union. Starting this October, the European Union proposes to introduce, so introduction of a new tax, introduce a framework for levying. This is an important word, levy. Levy means what? To actually, as a noun, it can be a noun, it can be an adjective, it can be a verb. As a verb, it means to impose, and usually it goes with tax. Impose a tax, levy. And for levying as an adjective or as a noun, an amount of money, such as a tax, that you have to pay to a government or organization. a carbon tax on imports of products. As I said, this CBAM or the idea of imposing a tax is going to make a negative impact on the exports of Indian exports. So it deals with on imports of products. That means from European Union point of view that rely on products that rely on. And here rely on is a phrasal verb. What does it mean? Depend on, rely on, depend on, and also count on. They all bank on. They all mean the same. The products that depend on non-green or suboptimally. Optimal means peak, and suboptimally, not to the expected level. Sustainable processes, not green one thing, and suboptimally sustainable processes, and where carbon emissions are deemed to have not been adequately priced. There are three dimensions. Based on that, they want to impose or levy a carbon tax. What are the three dimensions? One is they go with the products that are not green, they are non-green, or products depend on non-green or suboptimally sustainable processes, and where carbon emissions are deemed to have not been adequately priced. And here carbon emissions are deemed. We deem something, something is deemed. Again, it is in present tense, passive voice. This carbon border adjustment mechanism, CBAM, will begin with an import monitoring mechanism and culminate. Remember, we got this word yesterday, to reach the day before yesterday, to reach the final stage and culminate in the levy of duties as determined from January 2026 in future. So here will begin, will culminate, future tense. The CBAM will begin with an import monitoring mechanism and culminate in the levy of duties as determined from January 2026. The EU argues that. So, what is the justification? Why the EU wants to impose this tax, and what is the justification? The EU argues that the CBAM will ensure, again in future, its climate objectives are not undermined. It ensures what? Its climate objectives are not undermined. An important word. Undermine means to weaken something by carbon intensive imports. So if they import carbon intensive products or products which are not sustainable and not suboptimally sustainable processes and also non-green, obviously that will make a negative impact. Based on that, its climate objectives are not undermined by carbon intensive imports and spur cleaner production in the rest of the world. If they do that, another impact, it will spur cleaner production. That means what? Spur means to encourage an activity or development or make it happen faster. Result in, you can say, cleaner production in the rest of the world. This poses a significant threat. It is in present. This poses a significant threat. And to what is the impact of this? To some of India's biggest exports to the trading bloc, that is the European Union. So any tax based on this, it is going to make a negative impact, and especially it will pose a significant threat to some of India's biggest exports to the trading bloc. And what are the areas? Including iron ore and steel, with carbon levy is estimated to range from 19.8% to 52.7%. Marginal, a substantial increase. So that will definitely make a negative impact. Based on this, during a visit to France in early April, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said it was too early to gauge the tax's impact on Indian exports. It was said, whenever you come across the words like said, asked, told, warned, ordered, you have to think of indirect speech. And it is too early, must have said, present changes to past. Based on that, said it was too early to gauge the tax's impact on Indian exports, as operational clarity was yet to come, an important expression. So it is too early, there is no clarity, and operational clarity. Once there is operational clarity, then time to respond. Now it is not right now. It is not the time. By last Thursday, top trade officials were more assertive. It is in past, and assertive an important word, to be very firm. and you want to say something, you don't hesitate to say that. Or you want something, you don't hesitate to grab that. More assertive and termed tackling this risk. There's a risk right now when it comes to exports from India, termed tackling this risk as one of the top items on the government's agenda, with several options being explored. So they felt rather, one of the top items on the government's agenda, with several options being explored. They're thinking of several options, solutions rather. But here you see a particular phrase in green, one of the top items. Whenever you come across the phrase one of the, you have to be alert and recollect there are three rules that go with this particular phrase. You have to recollect all the three rules. The first one, we use in the basic form, we use a noun in the plural form and the verb in the singular form. Common error, a lot of people say one of the top item, one of the student, one of the manager, not correct. One of the students, one of the managers, one of the top items. And when you use phrases like one of those, one of the things, then we have to use a noun in the plural form and the verb also in the plural form, because the clause goes with the particular subject object, not the subject. It goes with the object. For example, she is one of those students who are interested in the subject. Here, who are interested in the subject goes with the those students, not with she. That one has to remember. And the third one, if these phrases are preceded by the word only, then we have to use a plural noun and a singular verb. All the three rules you have to recollect. On the government's agenda, so agenda goes with a meeting, the list of things to be discussed or considered. It is critical that, so critical here means important. It is critical that the center reacts with greater alacrity. An important word, alacrity, means what? Speed, very fast, not taking a lot of time. It is important that the center reacts with greater alacrity to what may be considered by some as a sophisticated trade barrier. Now, imposing this tax is nothing but, some people feel, it is a sophisticated trade barrier. In this context, sophisticated means intelligent or made in a complicated way. Trade barrier. So it becomes a problem to export, like in the past. So it is going to be a hurdle or a bottleneck or an impediment. Sophisticated trade barrier, doused in. Douse usually goes with everyday English and to make something wet. But in this context, covered in. Covered in what? Greenwashing optics proposed by the European Union. Apparently, obviously, it looks like based on environmental concerns, they are going to impose this tax. But the ulterior motive could be they want to create some sort of trade barrier or they want to make money imposing this particular tax. Last year, about a third of India's iron, steel, and aluminium exports, for instance, were shipped to EU members. Third of, that is substantial, considerable. Engineering products, the largest export growth driver in recent years, would be impacted too. So these sentences talk about, the last two sentences talk about the impact, negative impact on exports. Larger players across sectors are gradually turning to greener technologies. Now, everyone talks about sustainable practices and greener technologies or eco friendly technologies. And larger players, those who have a lot of money, they can do it immediately because they can afford to do that. Larger players across sectors, means different sectors, are gradually turning to greener technologies. They're very expensive greener technologies, and larger players have enough money to turn to greener technologies. But the transition needs time. It does not happen overnight. Even more so for smaller businesses. Smaller businesses need a lot of time because they have to spend a lot of money. They cannot do it overnight to move away from legacy carbon heavy technologies. Traditionally, the technology is carbon heavy. So that has been a legacy. Legacy means what? Something that is a part of your history or that remains from an earlier time. From that legacy, they have to move away from that legacy and turn to greener technologies, such as blast furnaces for steel making, traditionally. The EU believes the carbon tax is compatible. Compatible is an important word. Usually, I use a combination intellectual compatibility. Means you agree with someone, you have the same wavelength, compatible with, match with World Trade Organization norms, standards, but India is looking to challenging that. India is going to challenge this particular thing. It may also flag the incompatibility with, flag an important word as a verb, to warn or tell people about something that is important or is a problem. It may also flag the incompatibility with the UN's climate change framework, which moots, another important word, suggest for discussion, common but differentiated responsibilities for developed and developing nations. So this is a little complicated. It talks about the role to be played by the developed countries and the role to be played by the developing nations and the responsibilities. But even if these arguments are upheld, considered, these two avenues lack enforcement options. So there is a problem here. What is the problem? The, these arguments are upheld, means can be considered, but these two avenues lack enforcement options. They don't have enforcement options. So a threat of retaliatory tariffs, retaliation means what? To give back. Someone troubles you, you trouble that person, and that is nothing but retaliatory action. So a threat of retaliatory tariffs on EU imports. So what can India do? They are levying a tax on the imports. So on the other hand, it is the retaliatory action is nothing but imposing retaliatory tariffs on EU imports. Is also being weighed. Is also being weighed. It is in present continuous passive voice. We are weighing something. Something is being weighed. So it is an important pattern. Is also being weighed even as plans are afoot to quantify the various carbon taxes levied in India. So India is trying to take some retaliatory action in the form of tariffs, and also at the same time, there is also being weighed. What is being weighed? Retaliatory tariffs on EU imports. That is one thing. Even as plans are afoot to quantify the various carbon taxes levied in India, they want to look at that also. Having positioned, this is an important expression. Having completed, having positioned, having informed. We use this pattern. Imagine there are two actions that happened in the past. For the first action, we should use past perfect. Second action, we should use past tense. I had completed the work before I left the office, that regular pattern. The same idea, for the same idea, I can also say, having completed the work, I left the office. So the same pattern, having positioned itself as the voice of the global south, India must play that part to the hilt. Play that part to the hilt. That is an idiomatic expression. Means what? As much as possible to the utmost degree. While at the helm of the G20, right now at the top, G20, helm means in charge of a company or organization this year, and galvanize other nations, galvanize an important word, to cause someone to suddenly take action. In a way, you can, it doesn't have a negative connotation, but if you have to think of negative words, provoke, incite, all these words you have to recollect. Galvanize other nations to take on the EU's, European Union's carbon tax framework. This championing need not revolve around its own concerns. So when India takes a particular stand, it doesn't have to look at its own concerns, but take a broader view. But the far worse implications that CBAM entails for poorer countries. It can take a holistic approach, a broad view, and then accordingly it can take a stand. Many of whom, means the poorer countries, we got yesterday one expression, each of whom, here many of whom rely more heavily on mineral resources than India does, because they depend on practices which are not sustainable, products which are not eco friendly. Obviously, their concerns have to be considered. The editorial ends on that particular note, a broader perspective. An important editorial. You may get something like this as a passage in the exam. So you got to read carefully, understand the context, develop contextual awareness, and be good at the lexical terms that go with this particular topic. Let us go to the questions based on comprehension skill. What is this editorial about? You have to write in brief. That will help in the long run. What is warranted to tackle the European Union's carbon tax plans? Keywords navigate, locate, and you can easily answer. How will the carbon border adjustment mechanism CBAM begin and culminate? How will it begin and how will it culminate? Someone has already written, who is this Anusha? That's wonderful. According to the EU, what will the CBAM ensure? The EU stand is that CBAM will ensure something. So what will it ensure? Again, easy to answer based on the keywords. What is critical in the context of the editorial? There is only one clue for you, one particular word. What is that word? Critical. What is critical in the context of the editorial? But easy to answer. Once you locate that word, then it becomes easy for you to answer. But my suggestion, all these questions, I don't know how many of you are writing answers. If you write the answers, it will be easy for you in the exam to deal with the passage one thing. And also, when it comes to descriptive English, it is going to be easy for you. So I strongly recommend, don't simply look at these questions. Look at the question, write the answers, but when you write the answers, don't go in for cut and paste. Look at the question and based on the context, based on the editorial, try to rephrase and try to write the answer, and that answer should be grammatically correct and contextually correct. That is very important. Otherwise, the purpose is defeated. Now, let us go to practice questions based on exam topics. Today, I have brought 5 questions based on error location, 5 idioms, 5 phrasal verbs. So, very important and very useful. Have a look at the first one. Not that easy, in my opinion. The court's observation addresses the issue of delay, but it is one aspect of the controversy only. Read carefully and try to spot the error. If you can spot the error, that is wonderful. Not an easy one. At the outset, I would like to caution. Good morning. Who is this? A little late. No problem. Better late than never. No one has responded. Question number 1. Should not take this long. Yes, Sampath, what is wrong with the fourth part? You have to be a little specific. First, you have to write the part and you have to write what is wrong. What is wrong? There is a clue for you. Whenever you come across a word only, you got to be alert. And there's one important rule. What is that rule? Usually, people make a mistake when it comes to the usage of the word only. They try to use a word at the end of the sentence. But, very good, who is this? Anusha. But you have to use the word only before whatever it describes. Example, she has solved 2 problems only. Wrong. She has solved only 2 problems. Based on that, but it is only one aspect. We have to use the word only when it comes to one aspect, only one aspect. Then it is right. There is no other problem. The court's observation addresses present tense, subject third person singular, so es added, the issue of delay, but contrasting information. It is only one aspect of the controversy, not one aspect of the controversy only. No, only one aspect of the controversy. So, whenever you come across the word only, be a little alert, look at the position, then you can easily locate the error. Go to the second one, error location. India's leading wrestlers, especially women, supported by the male counterparts, took to the streets in Delhi. See, all these questions based on previous year's papers, frequency, I bring, and these are from the newspaper, the Hindu paper, sometimes from international magazines, topics in the limelight. That way, in a way, I try to keep you people abreast of the latest developments, means in touch with the latest happenings, current issues. All these topics are in the limelight. That way, you have some sort of familiarity. Should not be that difficult to answer. India's leading wrestlers, nothing wrong with that. And there's a punctuation mark, especially women supported by their male counterparts. Nothing wrong with that. There is an error. See, when I bring a question, I know how students think, what the standards are, how the papers are set, and this is something very important. You should get it. No, there is an error. A lot of students say that no error. No, 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 no. See, whenever you read, listen very carefully. Whenever you read a sentence looking for an error, first and foremost, you have to look for the time phrase. If you see the time phrase, based on the time phrase, you can decide the tense and you can spot the error. But if you don't see the time phrase, you have to ask the question, what does the sentence talk about? What is the context? It talks about a past action where time is not there, time is not important, action is important. Then we cannot use past tense. We have to use present perfect tense. Based on that, India's leading wrestlers, plural form, don't consider especially women supported by their male counterparts. India's leading wrestlers have taken to the streets in Delhi. We have to use present perfect tense. If you wonder, why present perfect, why not past? This is not easy. When you read the sentence at the outset, you should have the ability to understand the context. This sentence talks about a context where it talks about a past action, but time is not there, time is not important. Action is important. A past action where action is important, time is not important, time need not be mentioned. We have to use present perfect. In English, to express the past action, I'm going to spend a few minutes because this is something very important. They have given many a time in different competitive exams. In English, to express a past action, you have a choice. One, you can use past tense. Second, you can use present perfect tense. Then obviously you get the doubt where to use past tense, where to use present perfect. Any past action, time is important. Time is important, you have to use past tense. Any past action, time is not important, action is important, you have to use present perfect. Here, time is not important, but it talks about past action, so we have to use present perfect. I hope you guys got it. Go to the next one. Over the past 3 years, buffer zones were established in some of the 5 friction areas where the two sides disengaged. This is also a challenging one. Today, if you get all the 5 correct, you should be happy, you're ready for the exam. Otherwise, you have to brush up the basics of English grammar and brush up the 200 rules, then you'll be able to. Over the past 3 years, buffer zones were established in some of the 5 friction areas where the two sides disengaged. No one has responded. Obviously, yes, Jyotsna. Any sentence that refers to a past action and there is no time, then you have to think of present perfect tense. That is a lot. See, one of the differences between those who are good at English and those who are not good at English. Those who are not good at English use past tense quite often in conversation English and written English. On the other hand, those who are good at English, they use present perfect tense quite often. For example, a lot of people say, did you have your breakfast? No. Have you had your breakfast? Here, action is important, not time. Yes, I have had my breakfast. Then I want to know the time. When did you have? I'll switch over to past. I had at 5:30, past. So this subtle difference one has to know. There is an error. Answer is not the fifth one. This is also not an easy. And not an easy one. See, here I told whenever you read a sentence, when it comes to error location, you have to look for the time phrases. Over the past 3 years, that means from past to present for the last 3 years, for the past 3 years. And these phrases go with two tenses. One, present perfect tense, the other present perfect continuous. But here we cannot use present perfect continuous, we have to use present perfect. Here present perfect in passive voice, and here you see past tense in passive voice, which is not correct. Over the past 3 years, buffer zones have been established. What is this have been established? Present perfect in passive voice. So this is about present perfect tense, passive voice. They have established active voice, something. Something has been established, passive voice. What is the clue for you? The time phrase. What is the time phrase here? Over the past 3 years. You can also think of time phrases like for the past 3 years, for the last 3 years, and these are the clues. Based on that, you can decide. Only based on those, you can decide the error. Apart from demoralizing civil servants, the move sets an unhealthy precedent that shakes the principle of good governance. Yes, today's questions are not easy, Anusha. Challenging questions. That's why I said if you get all the five correct today, you should be happy and you're ready for the exam. Take it that way. Otherwise, also nothing to worry, but you have to raise your standards in a way. Yes. Apart from demoralizing civil servants, the move sets an unhealthy precedent that shakes the principle of good governance. Do you find any error? Who is this Motain Ram Sai? Oh, present perfect continuous. If an action begins in the past, comes to the present, may go into future. I have been taking the session, I have been teaching since 7. I started at 7, now it is about 7:35. I will continue till 8. Then I have to use, if someone asks me, so what are you doing? I have been teaching since 7 or I have been teaching for the last half an hour. This is present perfect continuous. I have been learning English since so and so time. So very good. I appreciate those students, Siddharth Tapa. Tapa, you're here. Good. And Jyotsna and another student, Vasudev, very good. And Mala also, no error whatsoever. I always appreciate the students, those who choose the fifth option. It demands a lot of confidence and under pressure, not easy. There is no error grammatically, contextually, a perfect sentence. And your response is highly appreciable. No, do respect the fifth option, and it commands a lot of respect, demands a lot of respect. The last one. These personnel were returning from a counter-insurgency operation that they conducted after a tip-off. This is also challenging. I don't want to give the clue, so you got to read carefully. These personnel were returning from a counter-insurgency operation. If you take that clause, no error. That they conducted after a tip-off. But here it refers to the first action. First action, we have to use past perfect. And we cannot use past tense. Based on, very good. Jyotsna has got it right. Here it is not they conducted, it has to be. They had conducted. They had conducted. Which tense is that? Past perfect tense. First action they had conducted. After that, they were returning from a counter-insurgency operation. Has anyone got all the five correct? Please go to para jumble. There is a reason why for bringing this particular para jumble. I will tell later. First, you go through and try to get the correct order. But answer my question: has anyone got all the five correct? If you say yes, sir, that is highly appreciable. Today is your day. Let us go to para jumble and we'll take the elimination approach. But any sentence that begins with a contrasting word cannot be the first one. Eliminate. Socially acceptable in a way that would once have been unimaginable. There is no subject, so cannot be the first one. Eliminate. No problem. Uh, yes, they are difficult. Who is this Surendra? Not easy. No problem. Two or three, be happy. Every day you cannot get all the five correct. Meaning the surrogate does not biologically mother the baby. Again, there is no subject, in the cannot be the first one. That is partly because a demonstrative pronoun, demonstrative adjective cannot be the first one. Eliminate. Yet a contrasting word cannot be the first one. Eliminate. So you are left with what? F is the first one. Again, when you read all the parts, you have to ask the question, what is this about? It is about one word stands out, surrogacy. Surrogacy, if not uncontroversial, has become, has become what? Socially acceptable in a way that would once have been unimaginable. Who is this? Oh, wonderful. Motain. Let me check whether it is right or wrong. FB correct. So surrogacy, if not uncontroversial, has become what? Socially acceptable in a way that would once have been unimaginable. Why? That is partly because, so continuation, that is partly because it is now often the gestational sort. What next? Gestational sort, meaning the surrogate does not biologically mother the baby. So here, DC, but is implanted with a fertilized egg from the intended mother or from a donor. So DCA, FB, DCA. Yes, Mala has got this order so far, and Motain also DCA. And what are you left with? The last sentence, yet surrogacy is also increasingly tolerated because British baby making has become altogether less traditional. He is the last one. Anusha, FBDCAE. Wonderful. Why is this important? And this is from an international magazine. You won't believe, I think 2021, 2020 or 2021 or 2022, descriptive English, IBPS PO or RBI, SBI PO, they asked the student, the candidates to write one of the essays, surrogacy, write about surrogacy. So you should have information about surrogacy. This topic is in the limelight. You may get as a passage, you may get in as cloze test, and here I have brought as para jumble, and you may get in descriptive English. Do remember an important topic, surrogacy. You should know all about that. And now let us go to SBI. Usually they give five questions, idioms, and IBPS they may give five questions, phrasal verbs. It could be this way or that way, but one shot. If you are good at, and these two topics go with effective English, and one shot. If you are good at phrasal verbs, you get five. You're good at idioms, you get 5 marks, one shot, and that gives you immense confidence while taking the exam. Show up. You have to look at the phrasal verb and you have to select the meaning. Tapa is the first one to respond. Show up, very good. It means appear. Shrug off, turn up, Vasudev. Turn out also right, but it goes with a lot of people. Individual, we say show up, turn up, appear. So what is a shrug off means what? Reject. D. Skim through. Skimming and scanning, two terms go with reading skill. Skimming means to read superficially, to have a quick glance, an important word. So when you read the passage, first you have to skim, or you read the editorial, first you skim, then you have to scan. Scan means what? You have to go deep and look at it very meticulously. And snap up, stand up to. Stand up to means face resist. And what are you? Snap up means grab quickly. Yes, of course. Slowly, I'm going to raise the standards. If you have got all the five correct, you should be happy. But mind you, these are easy phrasal verbs, not that difficult, except one or two. Slowly, I will try to get difficult ones with a context, the exam pattern. Now we have five idioms, and these idioms are very important. They have been given many a time, SBI especially. What is the first one? And all these idioms, do remember, if you read the Hindu paper, these idioms are used quite often, and they use the same idioms in the exam. And whenever there's a problem in the parliament, opposition makes a lot of noisy clamor. In the newspaper, you see there was a hue and cry in the parliament. So hue and cry. I will be doing that. Don't worry, Pawan. Hue and cry means what? Noisy, angry behavior. An important idiom. C is the answer. Try to get all the five correct. These idioms. Hard and fast goes with rules. There are no hard and fast rules when it comes to something. So here, hard and fast means what? Firm or fixed. Hard and fast, remember the combination, rules. Based on that, D is the answer. Sure, I will do that. I will take a session. Basics I will touch. Hobson's choice, this has been given so many times. Hobson's choice means no choice at all. Imagine there's no context. They give Hobson's choice, they give the options, they're not easy to answer. Hobson's choice means no choice, an important idiom. In the teeth of, in the opposition of, this is also an important one. It goes with the workplace. In the long run, I use this regularly. Ultimately, eventually, finally. If you read the Hindu paper, it will help in the long run. That's what I say. So, who has got all the five correct? Now, let us go to the last slide. Word of the day, assert. Assert, verb. To behave in a way that expresses your confidence, importance, or power and earns you respect from others. Example, don't be afraid to assert yourself and make your views clear. Usually, what happens, youngsters, you people, when you get the job, at the workplace, the boss tells you something and you know it goes against the rules. Then you don't want to do that and you want to oppose. Because he is your boss, you may hesitate. But there you have to be assertive. That will help in the long run. Assertive adjective. Generally, we use this as in the adjective form. If you really want the promotion, you will have to be more assertive. If you want to come up in life, you should be assertive. This is an important example. No, no, haughty, bossy, they have negative connotations. Assertive has a positive connotation. On the other hand, Vasudev, words like haughty, bossy, they have negative connotations. But the word assertive goes with the workplace and it has a positive connotation. At the workplace, you have to be assertive, especially when someone tells you to do something that is not legal. You have to be assertive. You have to be firm. Assertively, adverb, assertiveness. He is known for his assertiveness. He did that assertively. Not that important forms. And what are the synonyms? Declare, affirm, maintain. And antonyms, ignore, disregard. So that's all for today. Hope you guys have got enriched. Thanks for being with me till the fag end of the session. Do remember to subscribe and share. And after the session, you go to the description of the video. I'm providing the PDF, but not with the practice questions. Only the editorial, the vocabulary, the meanings. And that should be useful with comprehension questions. So, not with practice questions. You can have a look. We will provide the PDF and join the Telegram group. Again, if you go to the description of the video, you will find the link, join, and you can see the notifications and all about the activities related to teaching. You will get benefited. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.